My daughter-in-law erased me from the family business, so I made sure she'd never run it again. It started with a locked door. I arrived at the office like I had for the past 22 years. Same bag, same cardigan, same parking spot by the loading dock, only this time my keycard didn't work. I tapped it twice. The red light flashed again. I stood there a moment, confused, wondering if maybe the card reader was malfunctioning. Then I noticed something else. My name had been removed from the office directory sign near the entrance. Just like that. A young security guard came out of the building. Someone I didn't recognize. He looked barely 20. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. Can I help you, ma'am? He asked. I'm here for work, I said, holding up my purse where my old ID badge was clipped. He squinted at it. I'm sorry. I was told not to let anyone inside who isn't on the updated list. Do you have an appointment with someone in the building? I blinked. I'm not a visitor. I'm Evelyn Fletcher. I'm the founder of this company. He hesitated. I just follow instructions. I stood there for several seconds, the silence thick between us before I quietly turned and walked back to my car. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat behind the steering wheel with my hands resting on my lap, staring straight ahead, my chest tight and unfamiliar. They had done it. Haley had done it. The week before, there had been a transition discussion at our usual Monday meeting. Haley, my daughter-in-law, had presented it as something minor. A small internal shift, she called it, just to simplify the org chart and move with the times. I hadn't understood what she meant by strategic flattening or operational streamlining. I was still listed on the website as chairwoman emeritus, and I still had my office. I never imagined they would take me off the system, let alone the payroll. Now I realized how naive I had been. I didn't call my son Nathan. I knew better. It hadn't been his idea, but he didn't fight it either. Haley had slowly taken over. Everything: marketing, procurement, HR, even product development. When I founded Fletcher's Botanicals out of my kitchen 2 decades ago, it was about handmade, clean, honest products. Lavender and rosemary from my garden. Beeswax, I melted myself. Haley came in and called my formula outdated and rebranded our signature tea blend as Mood Elixir No. 7. At first, I told myself it was progress, that younger voices bring innovation. But then the website stopped mentioning me. The packaging changed. Then came the new logo, my own handwriting erased from the label. The call from HR came that afternoon, hours after the keycard incident. It was quick, scripted, and cold. They said my formal role had been dissolved. My name, they explained, was still respected, but no longer associated with day-to-day operations. They offered a transition bonus, which I declined. I didn't need hush money. That night, I made myself a cup of my original chamomile blend. The one Haley discontinued last year because it was too earthy. I sat at my kitchen table and opened my old recipe journal. The pages were yellowed, tea-stained. I ran my fingers over the ink, my handwriting, my measurements, my blends. They could change the website, they could erase my badge, but they couldn't erase this. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just hollow. The next morning, I went to the storage unit where I kept old packaging samples, notebooks, photos from local farmers markets, even the handmade signs Nathan and I painted when we started selling our products in the church parking lot. I stood there in the fluorescent light and remembered every decision Haley had reversed. Every ingredient she replaced with a synthetic copy. Every scent she stripped out. Every story she deleted from the About Us page online. Then I saw it. A file box marked IP and contracts. Inside, all the original paperwork from our early days. And right there on top was a copy of our first brand registration, the one I'd filed in 2002, under my own name, with my own signature. I hadn't thought about it in years. I took the box home and spent the next 4 days reviewing every document alone, in silence, with no help from Nathan. The name I once built from nothing, that they tried to take from me, now sat untouched. They couldn't afford to hold on to it, not financially and not legally, and they didn't try. It was like they never really wanted the name. They wanted what came with it, the reputation, the loyalty, the familiarity. But those aren't things you inherit. You earn them, and they couldn't. That weekend, I went to the local harvest festival. I hadn't gone in years. I used to run a booth there every fall. It was one of the first places I ever sold Rested Soul. I'd pack tea samples in paper sachets and give them away to anyone who walked by. Some people stopped. Most didn't. But the ones who came back the next year, they always remembered. Didn't set up a booth this time. I just walked around, watched, listened, enjoyed the smell of roasted corn and wet hay and caramel apples. I bought a jar of local honey, 2 candles from a neighbor's stall, 1 bar of soap from a teenage girl who reminded me of myself, quiet but focused. Her hands moved like she'd already done this 100 times. As I turned the corner to leave, I saw it. One of my old balm jars, an original one from years ago, sitting in the back pocket of a woman's stroller bag. I didn't say anything, didn't stop her, but it stayed with me all the way home. When I got back, I made myself a cup of garden sleep, sat on the porch, watched the wind move through the trees that bordered my backyard, the same trees I used to collect dried pine needles from, the same trees Nathan used to climb when he was 9, the same ones that blocked all sound from the street and made the world feel smaller. Then I went inside, opened the drawer, and pulled out the envelope. Haley's letter, still folded, still tucked between the shipping receipts and customer notes. Read it one more time. Quiet, straightforward, no manipulation. It was just a human being acknowledging that they crossed a line. And I realized something. I didn't need to respond. I didn't need closure. I didn't need revenge, because I already had everything I'd been denied. My name, my story, my work, my peace. The final thing I did that year wasn't loud. It wasn't a launch or a post or a sale. It was a simple gesture. I signed a fresh stack of product labels by hand, every single one with my real signature. No stylized stamp, no printed script, no digital font, just a pen, just my name. The same way it started, the same way it would stay. I waited for him to ask for something. He didn't. He just looked at me and said, "I think you saved something we were too arrogant to protect." Then he turned and left. It didn't fix anything. But it mattered, because for once, he didn't blame me. 1 month later, I got a call from someone named Diane from a well-known independent retailer that had previously carried Fletcher's Botanicals. She asked if I was open to wholesale. I told her I had no interest in scaling. She said she understood, but they wanted to carry E. Fletcher Originals anyway. Small runs, no pressure. They'd handle pickup, feature the products under a legacy line for their seasonal rotation, limited inventory. No push for exclusivity. I agreed. On one condition, my original recipe descriptions would be printed on cards and placed next to the jars in store. Each one would have a photo of the handwritten formula, my handwriting. They said yes. When I told Laurel, she grinned and said, "You've done it. You took it all back." "No," I corrected. "I never gave it away." At the end of July, I finally took a breath. We had cleared back orders. Shipping was under control. The shelves in the garage were fully organized, and for the first time in over a year, I walked back into my original mixing room, the one inside the house. The shelves still held dried herbs I hadn't touched in months. The old copper kettle still hung above the counter. I cleaned everything, down, lit a single tea candle. It smelled like it used to. I brewed a cup of calm evening and sat in the corner chair. No screens, no noise, just quiet, just mine. That night, I wrote something I hadn't planned to write, a single paragraph, for the website. I'm not scaling. I'm not building a team of 20. I'm not launching influencer campaigns or pitching to magazines. I'm just making things the way I always did. And if that's enough for you, then I'm glad you're here. I posted it under a section called Why I Came Back. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about Haley, or Nathan, or lawsuits. It was about control, not over a brand, over my own story. They tried to write me out of it. Now they couldn't even afford the rights to read it. By the time fall came around, Fletcher's Botanicals no longer existed in any recognizable form. The last time I checked their site, the homepage was blank. The Instagram account had gone silent. No posts, no replies, not even one of those vague corporate messages that try to soften the blow. Just gone. Haley never issued a statement. Nathan never followed up, but I didn't need a front row seat to their downfall. I knew exactly what it looked like. It was the same thing I'd felt the moment I stood in front of my office door and realized the keycard didn't work. That quiet disorientation. That silence no one explains. It didn't matter if it was fast or slow, being erased feels the same either way. Only now, they were the ones on the other side of it. And me? I was busy. We'd upgraded from my garage, not to a warehouse or commercial building, but to a small shared workspace in town that used to be a flower shop. The place smelled like damp soil and forgotten eucalyptus when I signed the lease, and it only took one afternoon of boiling rosemary to make it mine. I didn't bring anything modern into that space. No industrial mixers, no neon signage, just a wooden prep table, 2 shelves of glass jars, a sink, and 3 chairs. Laurel ran the batches from there now. Gina had taken over shipping, and I started going in just once a week to mix the smaller blends by hand. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Every week we put out exactly 100 units of product. That was it. No waiting list, no back orders, no sold out, check back later. When it was gone, and it sold out every time. We didn't advertise it. We didn't create urgency. We just built trust. And people remembered that. We got letters, not reviews. Handwritten notes, postcards, photos of our bomb jars on nightstands next to baby monitors. I kept every single one. I taped them on the wall behind my table. It was a Thursday morning in October when the last piece fell into place. I got a letter. From the county registrar's office, standard format, clean letterhead, one line stood out. As of this filing, the name Fletcher's Botanicals is officially listed as expired and unrenewed. That was it. Just a quiet confirmation they had let it go. Bloggers didn't want to touch it. And worst of all, for her, the core customer base no longer trusted anything with her name on it, and none of this had anything to do with me attacking her. I didn't file a lawsuit. I didn't go on a podcast. I didn't give interviews. All I did was tell the truth. Once, and let her trip over it. The settlement offer came again, this time from a new law firm. They were more polite, more measured. They offered licensing options, a revenue share, joint branding. Even floated the idea of bringing me on as founder emeritus for marketing purposes. Brenda sent them a one-line response. The client is not interested in licensing her own name. After that, they tried flattery, offered to preserve legacy by co-releasing a limited edition revival of the Evelyn blend with my face on the label. I laughed out loud when I read that. They thought this was about ego, about being included again. They still didn't get it. It was never about attention. It was about respect, and they'd spent years disrespecting me to the point that there was nothing left to save. 1 week later, something happened that surprised even me. I received a hand-delivered letter. Real paper, handwritten envelope. No return address. It was from Haley. I opened it carefully, read it twice, then 3 more times. It said, "I know I made mistakes. I got caught up in trying to grow the brand too fast. I shouldn't have removed you the way I did. That wasn't professional or respectful. I thought modernizing meant cutting ties with the past, but I was wrong. You don't have to respond. I just wanted to acknowledge that I mishandled everything. Haley." I folded the letter, put it in the kitchen drawer with the rest of the paperwork. It was the closest thing to an apology I was going to get, and it didn't change a thing. The business was gone. Her version of it anyway. The real one? The one I built? It was back, and this time it wasn't going anywhere. It took less than 6 months for Fletcher's Botanicals, what was left of it, to dissolve. Not legally, not through court. That would have required a formal closure. Haley would never sign. Her name to something she couldn't spin as intentional. But the collapse happened all the same. Quietly. Completely. Retail partners had pulled out. The warehouse lease, from what I heard, wasn't renewed. Their contract manufacturer posted a notice on their site. Due to outstanding balances, production has been paused on select third-party client lines. The final nail came when a major distributor issued a public recall on 2 of Haley's reformulated products due to improper allergen labeling. Nothing dangerous, just careless, but enough to make retailers stop returning her calls. Meanwhile, I was selling out every batch I made. Orders came in faster than we could pack them. Laurel was running shipping from my dining table. Gina handled inventory in a shared spreadsheet. My neighbor's daughter came in to help with labeling. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. And it was mine. The site stayed simple. 4 core products. 1 new addition, the Honey Soft Balm, made from the old Soft Exit blend, reworked slightly. People were buying them not just for themselves, but for their daughters, their sisters, their mothers. One woman left a note on her order that stuck with me. I gave this to my mother, who used to rub your balm on my feet when I was little. She cried when she smelled it again. None of that was about branding, or packaging, or market positioning. It was about memory. Haley had tried to repackage something people remembered, but she didn't know what they remembered it for. About a week after I received her letter, Nathan showed up again. This time he wasn't nervous, just tired. He stood at the front door with his hands in his pockets and didn't ask to come in. "I'm not here to defend anything," he said. "Good. I just wanted to say I get it now." I didn't respond. I thought modernizing the company meant making it more appealing, streamlining, scaling, but that was never the brand. The brand was you. It was small, real, personal. Haley didn't see that. I didn't either. And we steamrolled over it. I still didn't speak. I read every email you forwarded to Brenda, every file, the old trademarks, the documentation, the supplier lists. You never stopped being the owner. We just stopped treating you like one. No apology. They offered to pay me a goodwill fee for continued use of the Fletcher's name. Brenda sent them 1 sentence in response. Offer rejected. Cease usage immediately or face court proceedings. By end of day, their website went dark. Product listings disappeared, and on day 16, I got a voicemail from Nathan. He sounded hollow. "Mom, I didn't think it would get to this. We lost 2 retail partners today. Haley wants to know if there's anything we can do to fix this. Just call me, please." I didn't call back. There was nothing left to fix. Haley erased me from the company I built, so I erased her access to the name she tried to steal. And now it was just beginning. The takedown was real now. Fletcher's Botanicals was gone from the major sites. Amazon, Thrive, a few regional boutique shops that had once been proud to feature our product front and center. Now all they showed was a 404 error or a bland, temporarily unavailable. But what most people didn't see was the back-end chaos. A clerk from one of the natural product distributors, someone I'd met years ago during a vendor showcase in Austin, sent me a photo of a shipment box from Haley's facility. The new label read Fletch & Co., but printed underneath, in faint ink, still visible through the paper, was the old brand name, Fletcher's Botanicals. They were relabeling old inventory, trying to disguise the transition, probably to save on loss. But they forgot what I never would. Just because you cover something doesn't mean it's gone. And the retailers noticed. One of them, a family-run apothecary in Oregon, called Brenda directly. They'd stopped carrying the new line when customer complaints doubled. Rashes, allergic reactions, unlabeled ingredients. One woman claimed she bought the Midnight Silk Balm and found it separated, oily and sour smelling after only 2 weeks. Haley had reformulated too fast, too cheap, and with no quality control. That's when it all turned. People started tagging my new brand in complaints about Haley's. At first, I ignored them. But then a woman posted a side-by-side photo, her jar of rested soul from 5 years ago, and the newer version with a Fletch sticker half peeling off. The caption read, "One smells like care, the other smells like chemicals. Glad to have the real one back." That post hit over 12,000 shares, and suddenly, Haley couldn't control the narrative anymore. Nathan called again that week. I still hadn't returned any of his messages. This time, he didn't leave a voicemail. Just hung up after 3 rings. Instead, I got a message from someone else entirely. Gina. She used to run our inventory system before Haley automated it with a third-party logistics software. Gina was old school. She knew every product by scent and feel. She also knew how much of our original inventory had been quietly dumped when Haley took over the warehouse to make room for her new generation of packaging. Her message was short. "I still have the old logs. If you need proof of what got pulled, I can help." I asked her to come by. Gina brought a stack of printouts, real receipts, real timestamps, the last batch of original formulas Haley had destroyed, 4 pallets of finished balm, 2 pallets of calm evening tea, 17 jars of an experimental honey blend that never even hit shelves, all tossed or resold for pennies to clear space for rebranded lines. I remembered that honey batch. I made it for a hospice center near Kansas City. I called it Soft Exit. It wasn't for money. It was just to help. I never mentioned it in public. But Gina remembered. She teared up while telling me. She didn't understand what any of this meant, she said. To her, it was just stock. But we built something with soul, Evelyn. I've been in this business 20 years, and I've never seen customers cry over packaging. That night, I posted a photo of my handwritten recipe card for Soft Exit. No commentary, just a clear, close image. It hit 30,000 likes in under 24 hours. People began asking me for things I hadn't made in years. Not because they needed the balm or the spray, because they remembered what it stood for. Meanwhile, Haley tried to bounce back. She launched a press release announcing a new direction for the Fletch & Cumberts line. She called it a bold reimagining, claimed they were listening to customer feedback and returning to our roots. But the damage was done. Retailers didn't want the drama. She still didn't understand what kind of war she'd started. 3 days into the countdown, I began building inventory. Not for fun. Not to prove a point. To sell. Laurel came by twice a week. We cleared out half the garage and turned it back into a functional workspace. I had a basic Shopify site up in 2 days. Brenda's niece helped me set it up. No fluff, no branding agency. Just photos, clean product names, and one section called The Original Lineup. We listed 4 products: Rested Soul Balm Garden Sleep Blend Rosemary Hands, Repair Calm Evening Tea within 72 hours, all sold out. The comments were personal, detailed. Women remembered these products, not the ones Haley had elevated, but the real ones, the simple ones, the ones I made in my kitchen with a kettle and a clean jar. A woman from Oregon emailed me. "I had your balm in my hospital bag when I gave birth to my daughter. I didn't think I'd ever find that scent again." I cried when the box arrived. I forwarded that email to Brenda. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. By the end of week 1, I'd received 3 more emails from Fletcher's Botanicals internal employees. 2 in logistics, 1 from someone in digital marketing. All 3 said the same thing. Haley was panicking, but hiding it. She was telling everyone that I was bluffing, that a retired woman in a garage can't touch a nationally distributed brand. She wasn't telling them about the takedown notices. She wasn't telling them about the temporary account freezes from retailers waiting for clarity. She wasn't telling them about the refund demands from customers who bought her newer versions and had skin reactions. Something I wasn't responsible for but would be blamed for by proximity if I didn't act. That was when I knew I had to do something bigger. I asked Brenda a direct question on our Friday call. What happens if I take her public? Brenda paused. What do you mean exactly? I mean if I share the truth. Online. That they removed me from the company. That they erased me from the brand I built. That I still own the name. And that they've been using it without permission. She answered slowly. If everything you say is factually true, and you can back it with documentation, it's not defamation. It's disclosure. Just make sure it's clear, unemotional, and documented. I nodded. And then I opened a new draft on the website. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't even long. Just 5 paragraphs. Titled, What Happened to the Originals? I posted, I'm Evelyn Fletcher. I created Fletcher's Botanicals in 2002. I made every original product by hand from my home in Missouri. In 2021, I was removed from operations without discussion or notice. In 2024, I discovered that my trademark registration had never been formally transferred or licensed. I am now relaunching the original formulas under E. Fletcher Originals. These are not remakes, they are mine. I attached the registration document, a screenshot of the expired license, a photo of me and Nathan from our first booth in 2003, and one final note. You're not imagining it. The products did change, but I didn't. Then I shared it on the Instagram page. No hashtags, no dramatic caption, just, for those asking. Here's what happened. Within 12 hours, the site crashed from traffic. That Sunday morning, a journalist from a small health and wellness blog emailed me asking for an interview, then another from a women-led entrepreneur collective. I ignored both. I wasn't trying to promote anything, but people weren't asking about products anymore. They were asking about betrayal, legacy, and ownership. Haley responded 2 days later with a post of her own. I saw it because someone forwarded it to me. She didn't mention my name, of course. She wrote, Innovation is uncomfortable. Sometimes people resist change because it challenges their comfort zone. Fletcher's Botanicals is moving forward with bold vision and new values. We honor our past, but we lead from the future. I stared at the screen for a long time. She had no idea that the future wasn't hers to lead. Brenda submitted the final. Takedown notices on day 10. By day 12, Amazon froze their store page. By day 13, their email list was shut down due to an identity verification dispute triggered by our filing. Then, on day 15, the last legal day, they finally sent a settlement proposal. It was 13 pages long, legal fluff, a few concessions. It cited the original trademark registration from 2002, the unused license transfer clause, and the unaltered federal filing still under my name. Haley had updated the packaging and social presence, but never finalized legal control of the brand. They assumed you'd never fight it, Brenda wrote. They never expected you'd know how to defend it. By Thursday, the reply came in. Haley's lawyer accused me of trying to undermine the business for personal revenge and damaging the brand through confusion. Brenda didn't blink. She replied with a 12-page report outlining misuse of registered trademarks, dilution of brand identity, and illegal changes without authorization from the owner on record, me. And the more I dug, the more I saw the cracks. Online. Reviews on Fletcher's Botanicals website had dropped from 5 stars to barely 3. The new formulas Haley pushed had irritated customers. One blend, Midnight Silk, caused rashes for several people. The packaging was flashy, but the product was inconsistent. Then someone I hadn't heard from in years messaged me directly. It was Laurel, one of my original employees. She had worked with me in my garage before we even had a production line. She'd stayed with the company until Haley cut her position in the first organizational restructure. Evelyn, I don't know what you're planning, she wrote, but if you're thinking of doing something real again, I want in. That company isn't Fletcher's anymore. I stared at the message for a while before replying. Come by Saturday. Bring your hands. That weekend, Laurel showed up with an apron and a basket of calendula blossoms from her backyard. She still remembered the mixing ratios. She still knew the shelf order. It was like nothing had changed. That day, we made the first full batch of Garden Sleep my lavender balm, in 3 years. I labeled 18 tins and posted them online. All 18 were gone by nightfall. That's when Nathan called. I hadn't spoken to him since the day I was locked out of the office. "Mom," he said, voice clipped. "Can we talk?" I didn't say yes or no. He showed up an hour later, alone. His shirt was wrinkled. He looked tired. "I didn't know they were going to cut you off like that," he said quickly, standing just inside the doorway. "I thought it was just a role change. Haley said it was temporary." "She removed me from the payroll, Nathan. I didn't see the HR paperwork until after it was done. You didn't ask either." He shifted uncomfortably. "Haley said you weren't interested in staying involved." I stared at him. "She said I wasn't interested. In the company I built? In the name I registered? The brand I carried for 20 years? He didn't answer. "I'm building something new," I said. "But I'm not going to let her run it into the ground while using my name." "She's worried about the posts," he said. "She says you're trying to sabotage the company." I almost laughed. "I posted one photo of dried mint. That's what she considers sabotage?" He looked around the room, at the jars, the mixing bowls, the drying rack. "Is this real? Are you really starting over?" I nodded once. "And I won't let anyone steal it this time." He didn't argue. He didn't defend her again. He just nodded. That night, Brenda sent a final email. Haley's team had received our documentation. They had 15 business days to stop using the name Fletcher's Botanicals or face a formal cease and desist with court backing. 15 days. It was more than a warning. It was a deadline. And it was the beginning. Haley had 15 business days to stop using the Fletcher's Botanicals name. She knew it. I knew it. Brenda had made it legally airtight. But the truth is, people like Haley don't believe consequences are real until they're forced into a corner. So she waited. She didn't remove the website. She didn't update the packaging. She didn't pull product listings from online stores or notify her distributors. Instead, she sent out a company-wide email the following Monday morning. "We are aware of a legal matter regarding naming rights and are working swiftly. With counsel, operations continue as scheduled. No need for alarm or disruption." I didn't see it directly. One of the assistants from their shipping department forwarded it to me. I had worked with her mother 15 years ago. Small town. No secrets. Haley thought this was just another hiccup, that I'd get tired, that I'd cave. I didn't tell anyone, not even my sister. I called a lawyer named Brenda Holloway, someone I'd met years ago at a local entrepreneur event. She remembered me. She agreed to look over the documents. 2 days later, Brenda called me back. "You still own the Fletcher's Botanicals trademark," she said. I blinked. "But they've been running the company for 3 years. "Doesn't matter," she said. "They've rebranded and changed core operations. But the name, Evelyn, the original product names, even the scent combinations, you still hold the rights to the core identity. It's still yours." I sat down slowly. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means if they're using your name without a license, you can stop them, or you can make them pay." I didn't say anything for a long time, just held the phone against my cheek and stared out the window. That night, I went online. I created a new Instagram account under the name E. Fletcher Originals. No photos, no posts, no followers. Just the name and a profile description, returning to the roots of true botanical care. Within an hour, someone from Haley's team had reported the page for impersonation. They knew. And that's when I smiled, for the first time in days. Wasn't going to fight them publicly. I wasn't going to send emails. I wasn't going to beg for my seat back. I was going to rebuild. Quietly. Thoroughly. And I was going to make sure Haley never ran anything with my name on it ever again. The morning after I created the Instagram account, I opened my inbox and saw an email with the subject line, "Immediate trademark concern, Fletcher's Botanicals." It came from legalfletcherbotanicals.co. No greeting, no signature. Just 3 sentences. Your recent online activity constitutes unauthorized use of our intellectual property. Cease and desist all marketing efforts and social media. Presence using the Fletcher's Botanicals identity. Failure to comply will result in legal action. I sat at the kitchen table with my cup of tea, reread the message, and deleted it without replying. The blend I was drinking was the original Calm Evening mix, one they'd removed from shelves 2 years ago because Haley said it didn't photograph well. I didn't expect them to find the Instagram page so quickly. That told me they were watching, which was good. I wanted them uncomfortable. I called Brenda that afternoon. She wasn't surprised. They're bluffing, she said. They know your name is still tied to the registered brand. They've been sloppy, Evelyn. Their rebranding only covered packaging, not the underlying trademark. Their documentation is weak. You can push back. I asked her to send a formal letter asserting my claim over the original IP, trademark, and use of the brand's identity. She agreed, and she was calm, too calm, which meant she was confident. By the end of the week, the Instagram account had a few dozen followers, all local, most of them women I used to see at weekend markets. One of them left a comment that caught my attention. This feels like the old stuff, the good stuff. I miss this. I hadn't even posted any products yet, just a few grainy photos of my dried herbs and an old photo of my garden table covered in jars and linen cloth. But the tone hit something. Nostalgia. Trust. Memory. Haley had erased all of that from the current version of the business. Back when I started, we didn't. Talk about brand alignment or lifestyle storytelling. We just made products that smelled good, felt good, and were clean. Simple. Haley had stripped that away and turned everything sterile. The next day, I visited the small shed behind my house. Years ago, Nathan and I had converted it into a storage and mixing room. It still had my old shelves, labeled jars, a few worn tools. I opened a cabinet and found boxes of leftover tins and fabric labels. A bit outdated, yes, but all still usable. I pulled out the first blend I ever sold. Rested Soul. It was a mix of dried chamomile, spearmint, and lemon balm. I packed 6 of them, took photos on my phone, and posted one to the Instagram account. I wrote nothing except, Rested Soul, $14, local pickup only. All 6 sold in under 24 hours. And that's when I realized I didn't need a big website or investors or distribution deals. I just needed to remind people who I was and what my products had always been. On Monday, Brenda emailed me a scanned copy of the formal response she sent Haley's legal team. It was clear.